You're listening to Soundside. I'm Paige Browning, in for Libby Denkman. Do you have a horror story about your car being towed? Maybe it was really inconvenient timing, unrealistically expensive, or the towing company was just not helpful. I've actually had a tow or two, including one where I didn't understand the timing of the parking signs outside of our studio here at KUOW. Well, no matter what's happened to you, I'm pretty sure Amanda Ogle has you beat. Her car got stolen, and she fought for over a year to get it back from a Seattle towing company. Her bill? $21,684. Ogle was unhoused at the time, so her 1991 Camry was not just a way to get around, it was her home. Her case attracted coverage in the Seattle Times and elsewhere, and now her saga is the plot of a movie, which is in theaters now. It's called Tow. Portraying Amanda is actress Rose Byrne, whom you might know from Bridesmaids, the Insidious films, or her recent Academy Award nomination for Best Actress for If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. But instead of spoiling too many more details myself, we have Amanda herself in the studio along with her child, Avery Ogle, and her lawyer, Kevin Eggers. Amanda, Avery, Kevin, hey, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Great to be here. We'll start with you, Amanda. Can you recap for us what happened to your car in 2017 and how did it end up snowballing into the saga it became?
I was living in my car because I had run out of couches to surf on, and I couldn't stay with my mom. She was living in a senior housing apartment, but occasionally I would spend the night at her place, and I had parked it by her place in North Seattle. And as I was leaving that morning, I noticed that it was gone. So I freaked out and I reported it stolen. And I told them, if you find the car, please call me first.
Sure.
So,
Because this, as you were saying, this is your home at the time. You're wondering, where is my vehicle?
right. So the police called me the next day and said it was found in SeaTac or Tukwila. And the ladies who lived there called the towing company, Lincoln Towing, to have it towed. And so the police called me the next day and told me where it was.
Okay.
And then I went down to the towing company in SeaTac, and they told me it was going to be $427 to get it out. And I explained to them, my car was stolen.
This wasn't my fault.
Exactly. I'm homeless. Please, can I have my car back? And they were like, no, you cannot. And so they gave me some paperwork to fill out and contest the tow. It was towed to Dick's Towing, but they are the same company as Lincoln Towing. And the paperwork they gave me was actually said Lincoln Towing at the top of it. So I filled that out. And they called me and told me, oh, we gave you the wrong paperwork. You need to come back down here to get different paperwork. And I'm like, I'd already taken a bus all the way down.
Sounds like a nightmare. You don't have a vehicle to get there in the first place, so it's just so hard to even fill out the paperwork one time.
So I told them to fax it to me at Fred Meyer's so I could get the proper paperwork.
Which Fred Meyer's?
North Seattle. I filled that out. I filed it. It's still all the while calling them and just crying and begging them, just can I have my car back? And of course they said no. So I filed the paperwork, and then I had a hearing, and the lady who had called to get the car towed was there, but Lincoln Towing wasn't there. I was lucky because the judge listened to me. I explained I'm homeless, the car was stolen. So he automatically said, okay, you get, Lincoln Towing, you need to give her car back. No charges, anything. So I was so excited and so happy about that. But I take the bus back to my mom's house and I call them.
Okay.
And I just was like giving them a heads up. I've got this court order here. I'm letting you know I'm coming down to pick up my car. So the guy types in my license plate number and he's like, oh, that car was sold a month ago.
Sold?
They sold it for like $175. So I was extremely upset.
Oh my gosh. I mean, because I'm not going to imagine what you were feeling at this time, but I'm thinking if this were me, every day that goes by, I'm waking up thinking, okay, what's going to happen with my car case? I'm thinking about it constantly if it's me. And then they sell the car. What did that feel like?
I just feel like, at first I won, but then I lost. I told them, please, you need to have management, somebody call me back immediately. I called them constantly and no one ever called me back.
I want to ask you, Kevin, when did you enter the story?
Yeah, so I entered the story pretty quickly after that, actually. So after she goes on her own to court, right? She's representing herself, gets a court order from a judge, thinks she's won. She goes to Lincoln Towing. They say, yeah, we've sold it already. And it's sort of at that point that she's hit a new low that she probably thought she couldn't. And so she got an appointment with the Northwest Consumer Law Center where I worked at the time. And so I and one other attorney were sort of bootstrapping this organization to keep it afloat. And Amanda walked in our door and told us this story. My legal director said, well, this is a great case, because I had actually just gotten out of law school. I just got my bar license about a month prior to this.
Oh my gosh.
And so they said, well, she's got a court order already, so how hard could it be, right? So we'll this will be quick and easy for you to do. And I said, great. So I got to work directly with Amanda as my first case out of law school.
First case?
Yeah.
This almost is written for a movie. The way that this all was bungled with the wrong paperwork at the tow company and then your first case out of law school.
And you couldn't tell. He's such an awesome attorney. No idea.
And Avery, when did you learn that Mom's car was gone and she was going through this? Because you were not living with her at the time.
So I was living in Salt Lake. I was in high school at the time, and I was under the impression that she was living with my grandmother or with somebody else at the time. I was not aware that she was homeless because she didn't want to worry me and would have been really worried about her. But anyways, I knew about her car immediately because she did tell me about the case, and we would call all the time and chat about it and talk about how frustrating and horrible it was. And it wasn't until it had to have been almost a year later from when this started, when Kevin asked Danny Westneat to write an article for the Seattle Times to help with the case, that I read the article and it said that she was a homeless woman, and I started laughing. I was like, wow.
You were like, oh, they got the story wrong.
Well, I thought that they were playing it up. Like, I thought that they were trying to get people to feel like bad, like worse for her. And I was like, okay, just because, she lives with somebody else doesn't mean she's homeless. I was like laughing about it. And I think I had called my grandma at the time talking to her about the article, and I was like, that's so funny. And she's like, sweetheart, no, your mom has been homeless. And I just felt like so not sad, but like proud at the same time of like what my mom had been doing all this time while homeless. And I think it was a really crazy decision to not tell me, because
it's protective, right?
Yeah,
right,
I
Mom?
would have worried, and there wasn't anything I could do, and it's not my job, but I would have definitely wanted to help, and that's not my position.
So this kind of gets revealed to you, something that Mom had been dealing with and holding close to the chest. This gets revealed through a Seattle Times article by columnist Danny Westneat. Avery, you were saying maybe, Kevin, that you had encouraged them to write something. Can you tell me how that came to be and what being in the paper did for the case?
Yeah, so this is about, like everybody was saying, it was almost a year at this point where she had been without her car, and I had just been going back and forth with the attorney for Lincoln Towing, and it became pretty clear, pretty apparent to me that they're stalling. And
well, they'd sold the car.
Yeah, so at this point, they had actually bought the car back. So they often sell the cars to these same sort of chop shops that they they flip them for a profit. And so they actually went and bought the car back, but were using it as a bargaining token to drop her lawsuit against them, even though there's a court order already stating that they had to get the car back. So the attorney calls me up and says, well, actually, we've been storing the car all this time. And for every day that we've been storing it, it accrues charges. And, of course, I'm just sitting here letting him talk. And he says, so the bill is now about $21,000. And so he sends me an email stating the same thing. And I remember getting off the phone with him and just stunned, mostly angry, sitting in my office, not knowing quite what to do with a situation like this, and being such a new green attorney. I actually sought the help of a mentor over at Northwest Justice Project, who's another organization that helps out with these. And one of the attorneys over there said, you know what, we have other levers to pull as attorneys. And Danny Westmead has been writing some columns over the years, kind of railing against the injustice of the towing industry, and said, give him a call, see if he'll take it. He said he's written some articles like this. So I did. I sent him an email. I wasn't sure if I'd hear back, but I think the next day, Danny said, yeah, I'll come take a look, interviewed us, came to one of the hearings. He was actually there in the courtroom when we ended up getting her car back.
Wow. And was that scary to be written about in the paper, or did it feel like, okay, this is getting some attention?
It wasn't scary. It was surprising, but it was a great article that he wrote. And especially the picture that was taken for the article ended up being the movie poster.
It's such a great image.
Right. And I actually suggested to the producers that should be the movie poster.
We did it.
Yeah.
It was definitely a photo that looked like it was meant to be a movie poster from the beginning. And so it's wild that it actually did.
You're listening to Soundside. That is the voice of Kevin Eggers, lawyer for Amanda Ogle. Her real-life story is the inspiration for the new Hollywood movie Tow. Amanda, her child Avery, and Kevin all sat down recently to talk with KUOW's Paige Browning for Soundside. We're going to be right back with the rest of that conversation right here on KUOW. Welcome back to Soundside, and we're going to jump right back into Paige Browning's interview with the real-life folks behind the new movie Tow, which stars Rose Byrne and came out over the weekend. Amanda Ogle was unhoused in Seattle. She was living out of her car when she fought a Seattle towing company to get the vehicle back. The company wanted more than $20,000, but she was able to win after a year-long court battle. Amanda was recently in studio along with her lawyer, Kevin Eggers, and her child, Avery. Amanda is now housed, and she explained how her life ended up on screen.
How did you first learn that there were plans to make a movie?
Actually, Jonathan Kesey, who's a screenwriter, read the article and had called Kevin and said, hey, this is a great article. I'd love to make this into a movie.
As you can imagine, we were having a wild day at the nonprofit the next day after the article came out, getting lots of calls, a lot of great. We're getting the most donations we were ever getting. And so my voicemail was blowing up, and I was trying to keep up with it. But one guy kept calling saying I'm a screenwriter. And
you're like, okay.
Yeah. So I honestly kind of blew him off. And I've told him this story. I blew him off. He kept calling and he said, here's my info. I'm legit. I'm a real person. And so I finally went and gave him a call back. And he said, yeah, I'd love to come interview you and Amanda and write a screenplay for it. And he did that. And him and Brant Bowman, he has a writing partner that he uses. So, but John was based here in Seattle. So over the next years even, he would come meet with us, get coffee, get to know us. He even helped Amanda move some of her stuff in. And so anyway, he would get to know us and over the years and wrote this incredible screenplay.
Were you going to say something, Amanda?
One thing about after John called Kevin and he called me and told me about it, I was just laughing hysterically. I'm like, yeah, right. This is not going to happen.
It doesn't feel like real life.
And now it's this. It's just amazing. It's nuts.
And now you are not only meeting some Hollywood actors, they are playing the three of you. So, Amanda, I read that you actually gave Rose Byrne, the actress, a tour around Seattle.
Correct.
The movie was not primarily filmed here, but how did you both work with the cast and the filmmakers as they told your story?
Well, to begin with, the screenplay John wrote, I helped and Kevin helped a lot with that.
Pointing out, oh, that's not quite right, or oh, this also happened, filling in details.
Yeah, it was great that we were able to work with him with the script. And then we found out that Rose Byrne was going to be cast as me, and I'm like, wow, that's great. And Rose actually came and visited me. We took a picture by my car. She got to meet my car.
What do you call your car?
I don't have a name for her.
Okay. Her, though. All right. So she got to see the car, and you toured around. How did you try to show her your story in life?
She would ask me, where would you sleep in your car? And I explained I would try to find parking spaces. There was this one program where you can go to, like that's a big parking space area where you're allowed to park.
Mm-hmm.
And they would never be able to accommodate me. So I would have to go to different places to sleep to be safe. And so I showed her some of those areas. And I showed her the shelter I stayed at University Lutheran Church.
Not far from here.
Exactly. It's just right down the road. And I showed her the day center, Elizabeth Gregory Home, which is a women's day center, which is really advantageous because I could take a shower, do laundry, get my mail, things like that.
Do all our normal day-to-day.
Exactly. Because the thing that bothers me is, how people treat or see homeless people. They assume that we're all just kind of dirty, sitting in the gutter, doing drugs. And then people would look at me and say, well, you don't look homeless. That's like, what is a homeless person supposed to look like? Yeah.
And what does that mean? You're supposed to be able to what then? If they're not the image that they expected. Sure.
Exactly. And then Rose and I had a couple of Zoom sessions. She wanted to know everything about me and my life. And I actually think she may have recorded some of the sessions because when I saw the movie, I was like, she gets my mannerisms, even the way I speak. It was just amazing.
You're like, oh, that sounds like me.
Exactly.
Okay. Kevin, you were, as we mentioned, a really young lawyer. You were new at a small firm. Did you know what you were getting into when you took Amanda's case?
Yeah, I absolutely didn't know what I was getting into, but I don't think any young attorney does. I mean, that's part of being a young attorney, and I think there's a lot of acting going on in the attorney world, actually, for young attorneys. We have to sort of fake it till you make it, no matter where you're at, but especially being at the nonprofit where there's just it's sort of a two-person shop. It was definitely being thrown in the deep end, not specifically with Amanda's case, but just with high caseloads of the legal aid world and sort of the emotional stress you're being put under with these cases can be difficult. But I think part of it is being able to lean on some of the other sister organizations in the city of Seattle to be able to garner some of their knowledge over the years to get some help with these sorts of things.
Then what's it like to see the relationship on screen between you and her?
Yeah, what's funny is the film, and I think Amanda and I have talked about this, the film, they do add a little bit more tension there than there actually was in real life. Now, there was a lot of tension in terms of the story, and there was a lot of texts from, Amanda and I back and forth at all hours of the day and night because I'm writing briefs and she's reviewing them and she's telling me other details. And I know that we've also sort of created this friendship in real life because of what she's going through. There's sort of a bond there. And so I'm constantly keeping tabs on her and she's constantly keeping tabs on me. But it was always a really great relationship and we get along famously. There is a part in the movie, though, where we refer, she sort of jokingly, my character jokingly refers to Amanda as my aunt, my crazy auntie, or something and the like. And I would say that's sort of a relationship that's sort of true. It's just with less tension in real life. She really has been a good friend to me over the years since her case has resolved.
I love our relationship now. It's like we're such good friends, and so grateful to have him.
Instead of her lawyer, sometimes she'll call him her Kevin.
Oh, I gotta call my Kevin.
I do. I always call him my Kevin.
I think we ran into Demi Lovato on set, and they were introducing themselves to
As you do.
Amanda, and Amanda said, "Oh, you must meet my Kevin," and then introduced me to Demi Lovato as her Kevin.
That's beautiful. Beautifully done.
Yeah.
Amanda, as we'll start to wrap up here, I just want to ask the big picture question. So in 2017, you were living in your car, and now you're headed to a movie premiere about your life. Is it hard to balance these things in your mind?
It is, because, like I said, I don't think I did anything special about this. And so I feel like not the movie is putting pressure on me. I'm putting pressure on myself to be expected to be this
Star.
well, not star necessarily. It's just to be this
Strong fighting
person. Yes. And that's the thing with me is I do forget what a strong person that I really am.
What do you hope people take away from the film, from Toe?
That homelessness, it can happen to anyone. I mean, anyone
Take
can.
your time.
So many people in America are just like one paycheck or one missed payment away from possibly becoming to be in that situation.
Well, I think the statistic is that it's like over half the population in the United States doesn't have $1,000 in savings. And I think it's about 35% wouldn't have $400 to their name to be able to get their car out of the lot. And so I think part of the story is really just that, at least from my perspective, a lot of it is that there are a lot of lawyers out there like me who do this work, who didn't get a movie made about them. And there are a lot of people out there like Amanda who not only did not get a movie made about them, but did not get the representation that they might need to be able to combat a system like this. And so part of it is also notching the movie as it's not quite as big as the Aaron Brockovich takes on multi-million-dollar corporation. However, it's the small wins that matter, the day-to-day wins for people like Amanda who can get out of this. I will also say the one last thing I did want to mention, though, and Amanda had started bringing this up before, is just that the end of the movie ends up being pretty good for Amanda and you're in a much better spot. However, Lincoln Towing is still the exclusive towing partner of the city of Seattle all these years later. They have a monopoly and they continue to be able to do this to people like Amanda. And I sometimes wonder out loud on the radio whether or not the city of Seattle wants to do anything about that. So they're still sitting pretty. If you're wondering what's everybody doing now, Amanda's doing wonderfully, and I'm proud of that. But so is Lincoln Towing.
You can see the story of Amanda Ogle and Avery Ogle and Kevin Eggers in the film Toe, which is in theaters now. Amanda, Avery, Kevin, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org or on your favorite podcast app.